Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hey, good morning. This is Lil, and you are listening to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. We are heading right into the holiday season if you're listening to this when it's first being released. And I have to talk about this topic of self-discipline, because if you are struggling, if you're looking around and you're thinking, oh, this person has it easier than me, it's so much harder for me to get my workouts in, it's really hard for me to make food choices, it's really hard for me to stick to the plan that I make, and I just end up failing every time. I want you to think about the power of self-discipline. And we can be really, really hard on ourselves. So I don't want to dismiss you if you are struggling with your mental health. I do want to say, however, that getting therapy, maybe getting on some medication, can get you to a point where you really can learn how to flex that self-discipline muscle. So instead of sitting there and saying, I can't do it, start taking steps that move you in the right direction. And when you get to a point where you can make these shifts in your food choices and your fitness, realize that that should be the goal. I hate to be blunt, but sitting around, being sedentary, eating foods that are going to be detrimental to our long-term health by causing excess body fat, that is no way to live. You deserve to feel better. And in particular, when it comes to these habits, think about working towards goals that can be guaranteed, and that is a really great way to flex that self-discipline muscle. So strength training, it is so good for you. And it can be a great place to start if you are someone who has struggled with building healthier habits. Strength training is good for your brain, and the confidence it brings is truly unlike any other health and wellness goal that you can set. Because here's the thing about strength training. If you consistently strength train and follow a progressive overload muscle building program, if you eat enough protein and enough calories to promote muscle protein synthesis or getting stronger, building more muscle, you are going to get stronger. It's guaranteed. It's not like weight loss where you have all these other moving pieces where it's a very complex process. Building strength only requires those three things for you to do a workout or a fitness plan that promotes building muscle. You need to eat enough calories and you need to eat enough protein. And that's pretty much it. And you are going to get stronger. You're going to go from being able to lift 5-pound weights to 10-pound weights to 20-pound weights to 30-pound weights. And you are going to build confidence by building muscle. Strength training done the right way is going to make you stronger, no exceptions. And oftentimes it is the self-discipline to do what it takes that holds us back from reaching our goals. And we look to other people to make things easier for us and to hold us accountable. The entire reason I knew that I needed to tackle this topic on the podcast is I'm in an online fitness group where someone posted saying, I really want to start this program again. I've tried to do it a bunch of times and I can never make it past the first week. Does anyone else want to do it with me to help hold me accountable? And oh boy, I had to hold myself back from commenting because I don't think that sometimes people are ready to hear what I would say to them as their coach. And I didn't want to get involved in the conversation. So I just kind of observed and saw what the comments were back. And I had so many thoughts in this interaction online that I observed. And I'm going to circle back to my thoughts about that particular question as we get to the end of this episode. But as you're listening to the tips that I go through, maybe ask yourself, because if you've been that woman saying, oh, this is, the third or fourth time I've tried to start this plan and I never make it past the first week, is there anyone out there that wants to hold me accountable? So that is the question. And as we're going through this episode, kind of have that in the back of your mind and ask yourself what might be better questions to ask, or where should maybe she be looking for solutions? And is this the best way to actually finally create that consistency that she desires? I'll mention that in the comments, it was full of other women saying the exact same thing. I've tried it so many times and I just can't. Some people were saying, oh, I did one workout, I do the first workout and I just can't bring myself to do more. I think one person commented, oh, I did it for 2 weeks, but I think it's like a 10-week program. I don't know that exact. It's not a fitness program that I've done, but she said she'd been able to do it a little bit longer, but then life got tough and she just had to give up. So all these other women in the comments are saying the exact same thing, that they have not been able to stick to the consistency and the goals that they created for themselves. So these women, their plan ultimately is to create a Facebook group where they're all going to hold each other accountable to actually finish this program. So that's where they landed through their discussion. And again, I didn't comment or say anything. So keep that in mind as we go through this episode, because we are going to circle back to it at the end. Let's talk about self-discipline. What is it? Where does it fit in? Why is it important? Well, bottom line, it's the engine behind making any change that you want for yourself. Self-discipline requires a higher level of yourself. It requires you to take action, even when you don't feel like it, even when you aren't seeing changes yet, even when you don't have proof that what you're doing is leading you to that goal that you're working towards. Self-discipline requires faith in the process and just an inner knowing and understanding that what you're doing right now is going to lead you in the direction you want to go. If the word discipline scares you, if you think, it's like getting whacked with a yardstick at elementary school or whatever, this is just a reminder that the word discipline, the origin, according to Merriam-Webster, is that the word discipline comes from discipulus, I hope I'm saying that right, the Latin word for pupil, which also provides the source for the word discipline. So if your pupil you are learning. Self-discipline is all about learning, and it's so much easier to practice self-discipline when you learn what behaviors, which habits and routines are actually going to work for you. So having discipline puts yourself in the position of being open to learning. It's not about making arbitrary rules and then punishing yourself when you cannot stick to them. So let's dive into the tips. Tip number one, if you feel you lack self-discipline, start being more picky about the habits you're trying to stick to. A lot of my clients come to me, and when they fill out the application form, they tell me that they feel ashamed that they have not had the discipline to stick to the diets and programs they've tried. And a big one I've been getting recently, because I think hopefully we're on the tail end of this keto bandwagon. A lot of them are like, I tried to stick to keto, but I just wasn't disciplined enough, and I kept eating carbs and I just couldn't stick to it. Intermittent fasting is another one. Oh, I've been trying to intermittent fast, and they'll tell me like I tried starting eating at this time and ending my eating this time. I mean, there's all kinds of variations on this intermittent fasting thing, and it's complicated. And what I tell them is, duh, no kidding, you weren't going to be able to stick to it because it's just too complicated. It's not necessary, and it's asking too much of you. So instead, let's start building habits that stick. So if you feel like you're lacking self-discipline, really look at what you're trying to do. And if it's really complicated, the more difficult something is, the harder it's going to be to maintain it and create consistency with it. And this is the number one problem that a lot of us have, is the quote unquote solutions out there. They make them complicated because then, of course, you're going to pay a lot of money because it's so complicated. It requires you to really do this difficult thing, and that's going to be the solution because it's the secret sauce. But at the end of the day, complicated equals failure. You are not going to be able to stick to something if you feel it's too complicated. If you think about it, it's going to be way easier to stick to a way of eating that includes regular food that you could find at the grocery store or any typical restaurant menu. While you're traveling, I have a client right now traveling. She's in a fat loss phase, and she's texting me every day, sharing some meals with me, not all her meals, and telling me how she's making those choices. And she's so empowered because she knows how to read food labels. She knows how to make an educated decision looking at a menu. And I'm so happy for her because even though this is still a learning process on her end, she's empowered and she's using self-discipline again, because remember, it's about learning, and she has learned what foods she enjoys and what foods help her nourish her body, and that is power. So my belief is that when we aren't winning, when things are not working out for us, we have to take a step back and ask what we can learn from that situation. And if you're not getting what you want out of something, then ask what you can learn. Be picky about the things that you are trying to be disciplined about. Killing yourself trying to stick to habits that are so far outside of your normal likes and dislikes and environment is just going to add a whole other layer of stress and anxiety, and it's going to be a recipe for failure. This leads us to step number 2, which is start small. Keeping promises to yourself breeds confidence. And if you don't trust yourself to keep your promises to yourself, you're never going to be able to build self-discipline. So what is one really simple promise you can keep to yourself? One thing you have 100% control over. Because once you start to build confidence in the things you can control, then you can start build confidence in things that you may not have 100% control over, and you will create consistency. So maybe you could just make the decision to start drinking the correct amount of water every day, the ideal amount of water. Maybe you could decide you're going to start eating breakfast every day so that you can start your day right with the fuel that your body needs. Maybe you can start to build the habit of going for a walk after your lunch 3 days a week. Stop negotiating with yourself and start making new habits non-negotiable. And an easy way to make it non-negotiable is to make it really easy to implement. So we always talk about this, but think about brushing your teeth. What if going for your walk after lunch a few days a week, even if it's just 5 minutes of movement, was just as ingrained in you as brushing your teeth? It'd be really easy to stick to that, right? So start small and prove to yourself that you have the discipline to make changes and build on that. Jumping into a lot of changes at once, especially when they're complicated, is just a recipe for disaster. And you've probably been there, done that, and ended up harming your confidence by trying to do something that was just too much at once. So know yourself, be firm in your goals, but be flexible in your approach and the timeline that you give yourself to reach them. Number 3, stop thinking perfection is the goal. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not perfect. Nobody is perfect. A lot of people are on social media trying to sell you on the fact that they're perfect. And I will tell you, I see a lot of influencers out there who it's like you actively see them harming themselves because they're trying to be perfect. And they get to this point where they are not even goals. Because if I'm watching someone and I can see that their body is starting to break down, that their mental health is suffering, that they're obsessing over being so healthy all the time, that they can't find food in an airport or they can't go out to eat without making major changes to the menu, that to me is not someone that I want to be taking advice from, okay? Because perfection is not real. Literally nothing in this world is perfect. Right now, I'm in a calorie deficit, and this Saturday, I went, quote, over on my calories. So I'm in a calorie deficit. I'm eating less calories than my body needs so that I can promote fat loss. And at first, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not good. I've been doing so well. I've really been enjoying this process. And that was the first day I really felt thrown off and like, oh gosh, this is just not how I wanted my day to go. But then I looked at the big picture. Listen, we had a busy day. We were packing up this dumpster. We cleaned out our basement. And I was really busy all day. I was really hungry. I got a lot of movement in. I even did a workout that morning. And overall, I did so many things that day that were so good for me that my food choices were all really nourishing for my body, other than having, I think I had an extra like peanut butter cup and an extra ice cream or something after dinner. I don't even remember exactly how I ended up going over on my calories. But at the end of the day, oh my gosh, I've been in this calorie deficit for 2 months. Things have been moving in the right direction. I tracked what I ate. I saw that I was about 300 calories over my daily calorie amount. And I just shrugged and moved on. I'm not going to let one day ruin my goal. In the past, I would have been like, that's it, thrown in the towel. I'm horrible. I suck at this, blah, blah, blah. And it would have led to this whole downward spiral of negative thoughts and emotions. But learning to just shrug, see it for what it is, and be like, tomorrow I'll just, stick to how I normally eat and it will be fine. And I'm not going to let one day create this whole negative experience where I move totally away from the direction I was trying to go. And if I had thought I ruined my goals by eating a few foods and more calories than I planned, what is the good outcome? What is the benefit of throwing in the towel? There is none. And when you have an off day or old habits sneak up and rear their head, just brush it off and move on. There is no such thing as perfection. We live in the real world. We have real families. We have real jobs. We have unexpected things that happen. We have a life to live. And I really, really, really hate that diet culture gurus who shame people for eating normal things like potato chips or a dessert think that that is helping us in any way. This creates all or nothing thinking. And unless you're training for some sort of competition or bodybuilding or something, then you do not need to live in this strict environment. You can realize that all foods fit. They can fit into your daily eating. They can fit into your weekly eating. And it's just an understanding of how to nourish your body and balance those foods that really bring you joy and you really just love to eat. I have some clients who learn to have a small bag of chips with their lunch, and I have others who learn to include a dessert each night to go out to eat and live the life that they want to live. Because living in this space where you are just trying to be perfect all the time is just going to lead you to constant feelings of failure. And it can lead to an excuse of saying, F it, I'm not even going to try because I'm just going to fail. It's all about understanding that the habits that help you reach your final goal and that you're able to stick to are the perfect habits for you. And for me, that means including the habit of having candy or ice cream once in a while. I love a burger and fries. I love a milkshake. And learning that that one meal is not the end of the world. And what's more important are the other 1,000+ meals that you choose in the course of a year. If every meal you're eating is leading to you eating excess calories, excess fat, it's leading to excess body fat, then you got to make some changes. But there is nothing unhealthy about learning how to create that balance in your life. And that is how you're going to build self-discipline, because you're going to understand not being perfect, there's nothing wrong with it. Perfection is not the goal. Number 4, understand you cannot rely on anyone else to hold you accountable. If I had $1 for every time someone has said to me, Lil, can I just pay you to slap my hand when I reach for a cookie? I'd be a millionaire. And to be honest, I know that if someone truly thinks that is the only way they can change their behavior, then they're truly not ready for change. When someone says something like, I know it's going to be hard, but I'm ready to do what it takes, then that's when I know they're really going to be successful. It's important to know that a coach is not there to do it for you. No one can do it for you. Your spouse, your best friend, your sister, your mom, whoever you're trying to bring on this journey with you, they can't do it for you. As your coach, I can help guide you. I can help educate you. I can help you make swaps. I can ask you questions so we can work through your challenges and obstacles. Knowledge is power, and it requires an understanding of nutrition and how to reach the goals that you want, but it also requires an understanding of yourself, your likes, your dislikes, your triggers, how to prepare yourself for difficult situations and challenges. And it's going to be so much easier to walk the walk when you can enjoy the experience and you understand that no one else can do it for you. Okay, tip number 5. This is our last tip. And this is so important, but build an environment that supports your goals. This is going to be different for each of us, and it includes both our internal environment, the thoughts that we have in our head, and our external environment, meaning the people we surround ourselves with, our home, our work, all of those things. Your internal and external environment greatly influence your ability to make change and stick to it. One habit my clients love, every single one of my clients does this, but they love to listen to podcasts and books and continue to immerse themselves on a daily basis with other people, even if they don't have people in their home that are on the same journey, but they listen to this podcast religiously, they listen to other podcasts, they listen to books. In particular, I always recommend Atomic Habits by James Clear. That is a really great book to get started with if you're looking to make change and you're not sure how. But they start building that internal environment and shifting their thoughts and surrounding yourself with other people who are on a similar path is such a great way to do it. And when you know what direction you're going and you can spot people who are on that same path, it's really exciting to see that commonality and surround yourself with those people. And I love that my clients will have a big aha moment listening to a podcast or a chapter of a book, and they'll message me and be like, oh my gosh, I just had a breakthrough moment. And those moments happen because you're actively building an environment where you're continuing to learn, you're continuing to grow, you're sharing ideas. And it's just so important. And let's be clear, just listening to podcasts or reading books or signing up for something, it's not the solution. There has to be action steps that are taken in addition to just listening or surrounding yourself with other people who have similar goals. You have to be taking action in some way, shape, or form in order to actually start moving to your goal. In doing things like investing in workout clothes, equipment, an Apple Watch, choosing restaurants that have healthier options, curating your social media feed to only follow people who are qualified and reasonable in their approach to wellness, spending more time with the friends who want to be active and are excited to do things like go on a hike and don't just want to go out drinking. All of that adds up to build an environment that supports your success. Having a solution-focused mindset and being creative when it comes to finding solutions that work for you, it really can be fun. And it's so important. This environment piece is so important because oftentimes it's framed as wellness is like really hard and really unenjoyable, and you have to eat gross food and you have to do things you don't want to do. Well, sometimes the hardest thing is just trying something new. And then guess what? You realize, hey, eating this recipe for dinner is really delicious and I love the way I feel after I eat it versus the foods that I was eating before. And I really hate the idea that people think that it's unenjoyable to have healthy habits and that it has to be a painful process to get to that end goal. That environment that you're building is one that you should enjoy because that's going to be your daily habits for the rest of your life. Obviously, things shift and change based on different seasons of life and transitions that you go through, but those core habits, I will be strength training for the rest of my life. I will be making sure that I am drinking an adequate amount of water for the rest of my life, making sure I'm getting enough sleep, limiting my alcohol, making sure that I nourish my body and eat adequate protein and fiber and stick to a calorie range that works for me. These habits are not going to go anywhere. And if they do, I can expect that I'm not going to get the outcome that I want. And guess what? I enjoy my life. I love waking up and going downstairs, working out. I've built an environment in my home where it's easy for me to get a workout in. I've built an environment where I can open my refrigerator and very easily make a food choice that I'm going to feel good about. And I surround myself with people who are in support of me having these habits. And the longer you hold on to the habits and the environment and the people that want to keep you stuck, that make it easy for you to stay stuck, the longer you're going to stay stuck. Ultimately, self-discipline is going to be you putting in the reps, you trying new things and seeing what works for you, and you deciding to never give up and realizing it is up to you and that no one should care more about your success than you do. It's also about having empathy and compassion for yourself and realizing that in the big picture, having one meal or even one day or 2 days or going on an entire vacation where you aren't sticking to those boundaries that you have around your health and wellness habits and not making a big deal out of it, because realizing that who you are most of the time is what matters, and continuing to move forward and building habits that you can actually stick to should be the goal. I look forward to getting back to my routine when I go on vacation. I love my routine. I love how it makes me feel. And it isn't a question when I wake up each day, am I going to do a workout or not? That's already been decided. If it's a rest day, then no, I'm not. But yeah, if I'm going to work out today, I'm going to work out. And yes, stuff happens, right? Where our best laid plans, there someone can throw a wrench in them. But so what? You just wake up and try to make those choices that you know work for you the next day. And we can't get wrapped up in those moments where we do get sidelined. I have an entire episode on the power of self accountability, and self discipline goes hand in hand with self accountability. So, going back to that woman in the Facebook group that's struggling to make it past 1 week of her workout plan. Well, if I was her coach, I would ask her a few questions. Number one, how many days a week can you realistically commit to working out? If it's a 5-day per week program, then maybe trying to follow it and do 5 workouts per week the way it's written, maybe that isn't the right fit for you, and instead commit to doing 2 or 3 days per week instead of 5, and be consistent with that. Again, also remembering that your overall activity level, in addition to your workouts, is really impactful on your body's ability to maintain, gain, or lose weight. Number 2, I would ask her, does surrounding yourself with other people who have not been able to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, are those the best people to be surrounding yourself with? Are you going to join a Facebook people of a whole bunch of people who don't know how to be consistent? Is that who you should be learning from? Or should you maybe look for the people who are consistent and reach out to them and say, hey, I saw that you completed this program and I'm really looking for some tips. Can you share with me how you were able to be consistent? I feel like you're probably going to get better answers from someone who's been consistent than people who are like you and they just don't know how to do it yet. Number 3, what do you need to do to make this happen? Because it's not about other people. You live your life. You have the things that you're responsible for in your life that you have to show up for. And you need to figure out how you're going to fit in these habits along with your other responsibilities. So what is your daily schedule going to look like? What is going on that, okay, you did it for 1 week and then you didn't do it. How were you able to get it done that first week? And again, is this something that it might make more sense to fit in 2 or 3 days a week rather than trying to do 5? And what are the changes that you need to make to follow through on this promise to yourself? Honestly, these types of questions is just the beginning of the work we would do to move her towards her goals. But can you see how self-accountability is really the most powerful piece of the process? Self-discipline, self-accountability. Yeah, it can be great to do things with people and have a community, but at the end of the day, we are each responsible for creating the habits we can stick to. And when I moved away from trying to do the same workout program that the majority of people in my community were doing, and when I decided that I was going to start doing what made sense for me, everything changed. And it doesn't mean that you can't have a supportive community. It just means that your supportive community doesn't have to be everybody doing the same cookie cutter approach. It means that you can all be doing your own thing and supporting each other as you move forward. Self-accountability and self-discipline are a non-negotiable part of personal growth and building new habits. I hope you found this episode helpful in your journey towards new habits, and I hope you understand that the mental shifts that need to happen for you to move forward towards your goals are self-accountability and self-discipline. That is the number one thing that needs to happen, where even if you don't achieve your goal, if you are having a hard time sticking things, that you recognize first and foremost, it is up to you, and you can invite people into that process with you, but you have to understand that you are ultimately the one who will either make it happen or you'll give up and just be starting all over again. With the holidays coming, now is the perfect time to dive into my Lose Fat for Good workshop because I'm going to teach you how to maintain your weight through the holidays. Now may not be the best time to go on a diet and try to lose fat, but you can set the stage and learn how to nourish your body so that when it's time, you can dive in, whether it's January, February, March, whenever you're ready to take that final step, you can start setting the stage now to make it easier for yourself. You can also reach out for one-to-one coaching. I'm offering weekly email check-in right now where we get on a call, we go over everything so you can get started right. And then every week, either Sunday night or Monday morning, you would check in with me via email and we work through any issues that you're having, any obstacles, make any plans that you need to. If you have an event coming up that you want to have a solid plan for approaching that with your new habits, then that's what we do. We work together. So be ahead of the game when January rolls around by starting to make small changes in your habits. And you can do that with my Lose Fat for Good workshop or reach out for one-to-one coaching. I'll see you back here on Friday for another mini session, and I hope you have a great week and you can start looking for moments to practice that self-discipline and self-accountability in your day-to-day life. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.